Hi everybody. So we all know what Wordsworth meant when he said poetry is the spontaneous overflow of a powerful feeling. It takes its origin from emotion recollected in tranquility. So meaning that poetry is not a calculated or contrived creation, but rather a natural and genuine expression of intense emotions. So it is a natural and genuine expression that we face, that we feel. It's not a calculated one, it's not a contrived ones. Imagine that you're traveling to Manali and you come across a very beautiful lake and you decide that you're going to spend some time there. Now, at that particular time, when you are there, you actually collect all those emotions, all those feeling, all those intense feeling, and then when you return home after a couple of weeks, and then you start recollecting those memories, recollecting those thoughts, those ideas, those emotions that you already had, you already felt when you were beside that lake. Then you start writing those ideas, you start writing those feelings in a poetry form. That intense feeling is basically a poetry according to William Wordsworth. So in this video, what we are going to do is that we are going to learn about one of the most dominant romantic poet called William Wordsworth. Second, we will try to understand Wordsworth's view on poetry and what are the thoughts regarding poetry according to William Wordsworth. And third, we will briefly look at his life's work and we will discuss one of his important poem called Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey. So let's get started. William Wordsworth, he was born in 1770 and he died in 1850, and he is one of the major intellectual. Also, he is one of the major figure in the history of English literature. Now, we will look at some of his early life and also his educational background. So, he was born on April 7, 1770 in Cockermouth. All you have to remember is the place where he was born, and this place name was Cockermouth. Also, UGC is never going to ask you this question because this is a very easy question. So if you're preparing for any other exams, or if you are in undergraduation, if you're in post-graduation, then they might ask you in MCQs. So all you have to remember is that he was born in Cockermouth, England. Now he was orphaned at a young age and he experienced a profound loss, and this loss actually influenced his emotional and poetic sensibilities. Okay, and he attended St. John's College, which is again very important college in Cambridge. This is the college where he developed his interest in poetry and literature. Now he developed a love for nature during a walk tour of Europe. So many of the writers, this is called epiphany. You have an epiphany. For instance, when someone get inspired by looking at something, that is called epiphany. So he had an epiphany when he was traveling to Europe and he saw the Alps. Alps means mountains. So he saw the mountains and he got inspired there. It's obvious that nature inspires each one of us, right? And also nature is very important for the romantic age writers because they are inspired by the nature. Most of their writings, most of their thoughts, most of their intellectual ideas, were inspired by nature itself. Now, William Wordsworth, he wrote a very important work called Lyrical Ballads, and it was published in 1798. UGC has already asked this question, so they are not going to ask you again. And also this marked the beginning of the Romantic age. Okay, and this lyrical ballad, it was a collaborated work along with the Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So Coleridge and Wordsworth, they both were friends and they both together wrote this beautiful work called Lyrical Ballads, and it was published in 1798. And this preface was added after 2 years later, which means in 1800. In 1800, a preface was added by William Wordsworth, and he actually outlined the theory of poetry about how a poetry should be written, how a poetry should be written for the common man. And he was also emphasizing the simplicity, the natural language, and the portrayal of common life. So he was interested in writing a poetry about a common man. He was interested in writing about a poetry that is very simplistic in nature and also that has a natural language. Also, a seminal work of romantic moment markers shift from the former artificial poetry to the more authentic expression. So whenever we talk about romantic age, we are talking about the authentic expression. So all the romantic writers, they wanted to talk about the authenticity. You know, our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings, they are authentic in nature, right? It's not an artificial. So if you remember new classical writers, they were actually talking about the artificial poetry. They did not, implemented many of their feelings, thoughts and desires. But on the other hand, romantics actually believed in their thoughts, believed in their ideas, believed in their impressions, emotions. Anyway, now all the romantic writers, they were very connected to nature. Their entire soul was connected to nature, and their imaginations were influenced by the nature. So he was also deeply connected to nature, and he saw it as a source of his spiritual and emotional inspiration. Now he believed in the healing power of nature and its ability to uplift the human spirit. So according to him, nature was something that inspires people. Nature was something that uplifts people. है ना? And also he explored the interaction between external landscape and the internal emotions in his poetry. So once you read his poetry, you will find there is a fine balance between internal and external feelings that we get from nature. Now, he was also very interested in the ordinary life, ordinary man's life, है ना? And also he was interested in writing a poetry about the everyday subject. Like, he elevated ordinary experiences to the level of the sublime in his poetry. We have already discussed what sublime is. Sublime is a concept given by the Edmund Burke. He was an English philosopher. Sublime is something that is very vast and fearful and very beautiful. That's it. And also he celebrated the lives of the struggle of common people. So as we have already seen, that he was interested in writing a poetry which is written for the common man, so that every common man can understand, what the poetry says, or what the poetry is all about. And he also focused on simple rural life and counterbalance to the industrialization and urbanization of his time. So as we already discussed in the previous video, that romantic age, it was a kind of reaction against industrialization as well as urbanization, right? Now, some of his important works are Line composed a few miles above Tintern Abbey. So this was a place, Tintern Abbey, where he actually came back after 5 years. And once he saw this place, and he got, he was filled with emotions. He was filled with various different kind of thoughts, and he actually composed a poetry there. And we will look at this particular poem at the end of this video. And another work is it's very important, and also I think most of you have already read this poem, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. In this video, he celebrates the beauty of nature and its ability to bring joy. So he talks about the sublimity of nature. And next important work is Ode Imitations of Immortality from Childhood. So this is also a kind of his semi-autobiographical piece. Okay, now some of his autobiographical works include The Prelude, which is again very important work, and The Recluse, which is meant to be an ever larger autobiographical work. Okay, now we will look at his later life and death and influences. So he continued writing and publishing poetry throughout his life. So he never stopped writing poetry, and he was also made a poet laureate of the United Kingdom. I forgot to mention the date. I will put it in the video. And he also left a lasting impact on English literature. So that's why we call him one of the major intellectual of the Romantic age. And he saved this particular age. He saved this particular moment, romantic moment. And also he died in 23rd April 1850 in Radle, Mount, England. And he is also remembered as one of the greatest English poet, as we have already discussed. Now his important work, which is called The Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey. So if you are in undergraduation, if you are in post-graduation, then this particular video might help you to write a brief summary on the lines composed on a few miles above Tintern Abbey. Okay, so this particular poem's setting is, we will look at the setting of the poem and the context of the poem. So the speaker revisits the bank of the river way near Tintern Abbey. So Tintern Abbey was a place beside a river, and he was visiting his old village. He was visiting his old place, which is in the Wales, which is a countryside area, and it was this place where he actually got an epiphany. He actually felt different kind of emotions. The entire thought, the entire ideas, the feeling, the expression that he had, when he was living there, actually start coming back, and then he started writing about this particular poem, and he reflects on returning to the site after a 5 years absence, as we have already discussed, and that evokes the passage of the time and the impact of the memory that he recollected, when he was there. And the speaker describes nature's soothing effect on his emotions. So as we have already discussed, that he was highly impressed by the nature, he was highly influenced by the nature. So at that particular moment, he actually felt a different kind of soothing effect and soothing emotions, and he started writing about this, the time of the solitude and the memories and the landscape that inspired him. Now, nature is seen as a source of healing in this particular poem. So nature will always come back, again and again in all the Romantic Age writers. And this provide a sense of solace and tranquility that rejuvenates the spirit of human beings. And also the speaker describes nature's soothing effect on the emotions, especially stating that time of the solitude memories that we have already seen. Now, the speaker describes a sense of spiritual presence that emanates from nature. So there is a spiritual presence. There is a spiritual presence already exists. I mean, whenever let's imagine that you are living in a natural place. You are living in a mountains. So the mountains gives you so many different feelings, so many different aromas, so many different kind of expression, and you feel that some kind of energy is coming out of the nature, some of the energy coming out of the mountains. So that kind of a spiritual presence he was talking about in his poem, and he uses phrase like sense sublime and the presence that disturbs me with the joy and elevated thoughts. So you see the presence of nature that disturbs him, presence of nature that inspires him, presence of nature that fulfills his desires, and that brings the joy in him, that brings the joy in his thoughts. And also the speaker asserts that his communion with the nature has shaped his moral character. So whatever he is today, whatever William Wordsworth was at that particular time, was because of the nature, because nature influenced him, right? Now, nature becomes a source of moral guidance, deepening his understanding of compassion and empathy. And also the speaker reflects on nature's ability to connect him to a higher spiritual reality, as well as a force that animates both the external world and the human mind. So nature is again here, connects human mind with external world. All right. So mind and body, and internal mind, internal thoughts, and the external nature, external world actually connects together, when you are in the nature. Now, nature is seen as a unifying force that binds all thinking beings and object of thought. Also, the speaker emphasizes the importance of memory and in preserving the impact of the nature of the human psyche. Also, he talks about preserving past memories, preserving past thoughts, preserving natural, let's say, whatever we feel in nature. So he wants to revisit all those feelings. He wants to revisit all his memories. And also he believes that memories of the landscape have sustained him in times of physical absence. And also, whenever he was feeling low in his life, he actually found solace in nature, and he actually found happiness in nature, joy in nature. And the speaker contrasts the noise and distraction of the urban life with the tranquility of the purity of nature. So there is always a contrast between urban life, urbanization, and the natural world, which we can say countryside. So there is a contrast between country area and the urban area. Now, he finds solace in the memory of the natural landscape as a counterbalance to the stress of city life. So It's also very obvious that whenever we feel very stressed, when suppose if you're living in Delhi or if you're living in a bigger city like Mumbai or Bangalore, you feel very stressed in some particular time, and then you want to escape from that particular city, that particular life, and you visit in mountains, right? So the speaker expressed renewed awe and wonder at the beauty of the landscape, emphasizing the ability to inspire and uplift the spirit. So even to inspire, to get inspired, they always, like human beings, they always visit nature. Now the conclusion and the hope. There is always hope in all the romantic poets. You will always find hope, and you will always find positivity in romantic age writers. The poem ends with the speaker expressing gratitude for the lessons learned from the nature and the comfort of its offers. So what nature comforts, like what nature brings, what kind of comfort nature brings, is basically something that poet talks about in this particular poem. And he also anticipates that even in times of separation, the memory of nature's beauty will continue to guide and sustain him. So even when his memories are fading, even when he is weak in his life, even when he is very sad, very emotional in his life, the nature fulfills his desires. The nature brings some kind of solace in his life. Now we will look at some of the important quotes from this particular poem. He said that I have said that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of a powerful feeling. So according to him, poetry is basically the spontaneous overflow of a powerful feeling that we have already discussed in the beginning, right? And also it is the principal object. And he said next, I mean, you can just stop this video and you can take a screenshot and you can read all these important quotations that might help you to understand more about William Wordsworth and more about romantic age writers. Okay, you can also take the screenshot here. And he says it's a very beautiful line. These are very beautiful line. You can simply pause it and you can read it. He says the language of these men is adopted because such men hourly communicate with the best object from which the best part of language is originally derived. So he keeps talking about nature, how nature influences poetry, how nature influences language, how nature influences everyday life. है ना? You can also take a screenshot of this. I think that's all for today's video, and we will see you. I will see you in the next one. So, and also if you want this free PDF, you can join my Telegram channel. I will put the link in the description, and also you can contact me on WhatsApp or on Instagram if you wish. And if you're looking for UGC-NET English, you can always connect with me. You can always contact me. And also I will be making more such videos in the upcoming weeks. So take care. Bye bye.